Welcome back and good afternoon. Now for my next one-on-one CEO session, this gentleman is an industry legend with over 4 decades of experience. If you could please warmly welcome on stage the CEO of Fiji Airways, Mr. Andre Viljoen. Hello, sir.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Right, take a seat. You've spent a good number of years now at some of the most exotic island nation airlines. You've had a pretty good record there. What a place to be, especially in Fiji. I just want to recap for the audience, for those who are not familiar with Fiji Airways, which is in many ways more than just an airline. It's the biggest airline in the Pacific Island nations. Tourism makes up 45% of the island nation's GDP. Fiji Airways is responsible for carrying 70% of all tourism into the island and effectively acts as a bridge, as a link between the island and the rest of the world. And in many ways, you're like a central bank's favorite company, generating and earning the largest amount of foreign exchange for the country. And given Fiji's distance between the wider world, it takes 10 hours to get to and from Singapore from Fiji, and likewise Los Angeles. So it's as much as it's a beautiful place, it's also in many ways remote, but not insultingly so. But with a fleet of 20 aircraft, you in many ways are fighting against the tide in many ways. And given a wide number of carriers over the years have gone bust, you remain. What kind of gives you the right, how you manage to survive, thrive, stay in business, and continue to look forward?
So Danny, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone in the audience. What gives us the right? 2 things. Firstly, we live our purpose. We fly for Fiji. We are the most strategic organization or company in the country, and every employee knows they're a custodian of this vital company. And the second reason why we have a right is we have, over the last 7 years, systematically developed the capability to punch above our weight and stand alongside the giants, and to some extent even beat them.
And one of the reasons why you have survived is just really focusing on what you do best. And I mean, COVID especially would have been pretty challenging for any airline, but particularly for yours, where Fiji is not a wealthy nation, and you have to, as a country, as an airline, you have to find all manner of ways to survive. Can you just talk to me about your COVID experience and what that meant for you to be able to navigate that successfully?
Yes, so obviously our government and country didn't have the funds to bail out the airline. We had to do it ourselves. What we did is we developed a 7-year model with the help of BNP Paribas that enabled us in granular detail to forecast for different startup dates, ramp-up profiles, the amount of cash we needed to see our ways through it, and also the equity. And we prepared about 32 versions of this model. And with that, armed with that, we went to all the big financiers and said, help us. And the first question they always asked, can you repay? And when we could show them, and it was quite funny, they would say, we think you're going to restart maybe in April 21, and it will take 18 months to ramp up, and I'd roll out model number 29. Give it to them, and they'd say, wow, you're organized. Yes, we can give you the financing. So we raised the necessary debt to get through it, and happily we've already paid back half of it.
Wow, and how much of that debt was there overall that you were looking at?
So it was close to $1 billion. For a small airline, it's a lot.
Billion Fijian dollars.
Yes.
Yeah. And when you looked at COVID initially, I was actually in Fiji in March 2020. I managed to get back to Hong Kong, where I'm normally based, just a day before the borders closed. But having left Fiji after 5 days, we only were able to see slowly the onset of COVID. And when you think about how you're so dependent on tourism, it's just devastating. I mean,
yes.
Resorts closed, jobs lost. what were you thinking at the time when you saw this oncoming COVID tsunami?
We've been doing a lot of cognitive development of our employees and our leadership. And obviously, right at the outset, we had to get the right mindset. The mindset was to be strategically future fit, still thinking the future whilst we're dealing with a problem.
Not being defeatist.
Yeah, not being defeated, but more importantly, we never shut the airline down. Because of the strategic nature, we needed to be totally ready the moment borders open to resume flying, and in fact to be the first mover. And we did that. We cancelled month by month, the schedule, and stayed alive right to the end. We had just commissioned our world-class aviation academy with full flight simulators, had our crew current all the time. We did something like 900 repatriation flights for all the island countries and ourselves, and also carried 30,000 tons of cargo during that time.
And I guess also, when you're looking at, when you're more than just an airline in many ways, what was it like when you basically had foreign airlines, they just desert, Fiji just like that? Well, and clearly you have to step up.
Well, I think it proved one point. We've always said we're strategic to the country, and we're there to stay. And when all the others leave, we'll be around to ensure that the moment borders open, we resume tourism to the country, which is, as you say, nearly 45% of the economy.
Now, talk to me about some of your stats. Where are you now in terms of capacity compared to pre-COVID levels?
Yes.
And now, how are you performing? And especially, are you seeing the levels of demand come back, especially tourism levels?
Yes, so we'd initially, during all our planning with COVID, assumed an 18-month ramp up back to normal. And we were totally shocked to see it within 4 months.
4 months?
4 months. And currently, we've grown by about 25% compared to what we were pre-COVID, and going flat out, and very happy with our performance.
So you're about 125% of pre-COVID levels.
Pre-COVID levels.
And that's thanks to ultimately the demand. And as that, in terms of the balance of tourism, how good has it been in terms of when you look at not just the airline, but for the country, the economy?
Yes, so the tourism numbers for the year ended 23 are ahead of what they were in 19. So we've grown tourism overall in the country, and the economy has benefited enormously from it.
Now the question is, can you sustain it? I mean, because people, whether you are wanting a holiday or if you're a nomad, you want to just get away and you think Fiji is a great place to go to. Can you sustain that in 2024? Well, the outlook clearly for a lot of airlines, big, small, is varied.
What we've seen with 24, we've already seen a reduction in demand. I think a lot of people said 23 and 22 were revenge travel years. And we're starting to see a slowdown, but we're taking the necessary measures. We've readjusted our network to adjust for the slight slowdown. But it's still going to be ahead of 23.
And
but just not the same level of growth.
When you say slowdown, and what does that mean in terms of how you bring down your capacity by a percentage amount?
Yeah, so we've curtailed or swapped aircraft sizes, gone to the MAX as opposed to 330s on certain destinations. And we've also basically taken out a number of flights. So we've adjusted down. Our growth for 24 would have been, without this adjustment, another 18%.
Which is a lot.
So we've curtailed it down to about 9-10%.
It's not too bad. You always want to be prudent, and you always want to be cautious of the future.
Absolutely.
But at least you're profitable, and that's the main thing, right? You're able to deliver returns and be able to build on what was still a pretty tough few years of COVID.
Yeah, so one of our key objectives is to be, self-sustainable throughout. Our country cannot, afford to sustain us if we're not. So we always have that in the back of our minds. So all our measures we take, what I call our game changer strategies, is to constantly look at the sustainability of the business. And when there's a change in the environment, we adjust accordingly.
Now, one of the things that has brought Fiji Airways into a bigger stage is being part of an alliance of sorts. You're part of the One World Connect program. It allows select airlines to partner up with you on a preferential basis. It doesn't mean you're part of a full alliance. How has that worked for you, and
Yes, so
what have you seen in that?
As you rightly say, we're the Connect partner, we're the only one. It's been a very interesting couple of years for us, but we now desire to become a full member to really get the full benefit.
You would love to be a full One World.
Full One World member.
And how long do you think that would take? I mean, you're an airline of small size. It normally takes a lot to integrate airlines into...
Well, we've made an urgency. So we're obviously appealing to all the other One World carriers to consider us becoming a full member.
And how accretive could that be financially? Because the ability for you in particular to then reach out to other markets and sell Fiji as a destination from London, from New York, connecting on to Los Angeles or Singapore, and then on to Fiji, for example. How transformative could that be, given the cost of joining an alliance full-time?
No, it will be, but remember, with most of the big carriers in One World, we already have bilateral relationships. So the 4 founders, which is Qantas, Cathay, British Airways, and American, we've already got substantial relationships with them, code shares, etc. So this would just take it to another level.
And have you, given you've done so much modeling during COVID of all your plans, and what could One World bring in terms of levels of profitability? Have you kind of sketched that out yet?
Well, we haven't actually put numbers to it yet, but in the process, and obviously our model, this famous BNP Paribas model, we still do all the time, because all our financials still require it.
Yeah.
So yes, we're layering extra pieces to it now.
Now, going back to the original question, what gives you the right to survive? How do you reflect on an industry where, even just last week we had another airline decided to fold in Canada? How do you feel about the future for smaller airlines? Whether their demise is for one reason or another, or they just don't have enough funding, financing, or partnerships. How do you always look at where you are now and where you want to be in the future?
Well, we've got 4 or 5 game changer strategies which worked for us till now, and we will continue with it. And I recommend small airlines consider something similar, because we have the same challenge business model. Most of us that are island airlines have the bulk of our traffic being leisure travelers and very small domestic markets. We have a scale problem, 20 aircraft. You often have no market power in the markets you fly to. So the strategies we follow is, firstly, we build on our grit of the company. In other words, we have a leadership team and an employee team that we spend a lot of time on cognitive psychology development, mindset development, thinking development, and we ensure that they're all aligned with the common purpose of the company. The second thing we've done is we've modernized our fleet, and that's very important. Thirdly, we focused heavily on service quality, really coming with unbelievable service quality. We've won many awards. And lastly, to constantly keep improving the business model, looking for every way possible, every inch we can move it all the time.
Yeah, it feels like you've done a lot. And there's a lot more to do ultimately. And it's great to see that tourists are coming back, and the future looks bright. If there's anything that you could share with us about 2024, what are some of the big things that you're looking at in terms of, as you obviously pull back on some demand, are you going to expand still in other markets? How do you feel about 2024 overall, about how you approach the year?
Yeah, so what we're doing for the first half of the year, we're consolidating. And the second half, we've got a couple of new destinations we're introducing. And one of them is a massive game changer for us. So we're constantly looking for those game changers just to keep elevating our airline.
And could you share with us where? I'm sure you can't at this stage, but do you know when would you be able to make this announcement?
Well, we're hoping certainly by June, July this year.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much indeed for joining me on stage. I love our conversation, and I love going to Fiji constantly, hopefully in the near future as well. Thank you very much indeed. Andre Viljoen, the CEO of Fiji Airways. Everyone, give him a round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you.